In recent years, a few high-profile scandals in Quebec institutions like law enforcement, healthcare, the judicial system, as well as some incidents in the U.S., have repeatedly resurrected the same debate. Does racism exist just among some people, or is it systemic?
Le problème, non. Je refuse de dire qu'il est systémique. Les institutions québécoises, je regrette, ne sont pas racistes.
That has been, documented again and again by tons of different people, and it exists. It's a fact.
Some call the debate futile, others call it fundamental, and it usually leads to the same question. Should the provincial government recognize the existence of systemic racism in Quebec? The CAQ government under François Legault always refused to acknowledge it. Some thought with a new premier and this new case of what appears to be organized racism within an entire squad of police officers, that might change. But no.
Pour moi, si c'est un groupuscule, c'est pas nécessairement systémique. Pour moi, systémique, c'est à plus large échelle.
Premier Christine Fréchette was responding there to the police racism scandal in Montreal-Nord. For many, leaving out the word systemic misses the mark.
If a doctor refused to diagnose a patient, can he treat it? I think in every other situation, we would see that there's a nonsense about that.
There are a few reasons why the CAQ and some others in Quebec may be reluctant to describe the problem as systemic. Some say the argument for it just isn't clear enough.
Si ces groupes-là prétendent que c'est systémique, qu'ils me nomment les lois, les règlements et toutes les procédures dans le système de santé, l'éducation, au Parlement, n'importe où qui bloquent ces communautés.
He says there may be individuals in Quebec who are racist, but institutions are not.
It's oftentimes subtle, non-conscious, done without malice. The majority of the time, this is the type of racism that we are thinking about. We could say, we didn't mean it. We are not even conscious that we are doing it, but the effects are palpable.
Some analysts say the main reason the CAQ doesn't like the term systemic racism is that they see it as a political liability.
The concept of systemic racism is kind of in a bucket with a couple of other terms or phrases like defund the police and critical race theory that have been coded in a certain aspect of the political spectrum. We might call them woke. And certainly the CAQ would like to think itself or present itself as a party that is not signed up to, quote unquote, that agenda. Politically for them, in terms of how they position themselves, I think that they're never likely to acknowledge a concept like this.
But other governments and organizations have acknowledged systemic racism. The federal government has done it. Most other provinces have acknowledged it too. So has the City of Montreal and several other major institutions in Quebec, including the justice system.
Courts have recognized this phenomenon many times in many instances and for many years.
The most notable decision is one that's currently before the Supreme Court of Canada. Montrealer Christopher Luamba challenged the notion of random police traffic stops, saying they amounted to racial profiling. A judge agreed and struck down the practice.
If you read that decision, you have pages and pages and pages of what people in the Black communities have known for years, but it seems that many people are deaf to that phenomenon, that you are arrested for no reason just because you are a Black person driving a car.
He says part of the reason for that is the media.
The debate in Quebec has been sidetracked by some commentators who pretend to have this discussion is a way to say that Quebecers in general are racist.
He says that makes some politicians fearful of being targeted by those commentators.
There might be people in political parties who individually or personally or privately could acknowledge, the system appears to have certain encoded elements that produce unequal treatment on the basis of race, but I can't say that out loud because that's not a message that's going to get me reelected.
Because we have this history, it's very tough for us to actually talk about racism because we have these mechanisms of defense that happen very fast, and we see Quebec bashing everywhere.
But those calling for the government to recognize systemic racism say that's not what it's about.
Saying that the nation has problem with racism and discrimination is not an indictment on Quebec. It's something that is everywhere.
I think that, when we keep telling you that there's an issue, whether it's the Black community, the Indigenous community, other communities that are racialized, you need to listen.
But those skeptical of systemic racism say anecdotes and stories of those affected just aren't enough.
On ne peut pas simplement lancer des accusations comme ça qui ne sont pas appuyées sur des données, des faits. Dans ce cas-ci de Montréal-Nord, on en a eu un cas. Dans le cas de Joyce Echequan, on a eu deux infirmières. C'était pas l'hôpital, c'était 2 infirmières qui ont été aussi sanctionnées.
Activists say they're tired of making the same arguments, having to justify the same things over and over again.
This is exhausting for all of us, and I think it's important to name that.
But she says even if the CAQ or whoever forms the next government recognizes systemic racism, that on its own won't be enough. She says recognition alone can be a kind of smokescreen.
Sometimes we name things and we don't fix it, meaning that the SPVM or the Ville de Montréal recognize that there is systemic racism, but it's not because they're naming those things that they are ready to give systemic solution to fix the systemic problem that they identify and recognize.
She says you need to do both, name the problem and try to fix it. And she says right now the CAQ government is doing neither. We asked all the other provincial parties for their position on this. The Liberals and Quebec Solidaire both recognize systemic racism in Quebec. The PQ and the Conservative Party of Quebec didn't respond, although both have rejected the notion in the past.